Hello, this is Roland. Today I want to continue talking about finding a prayer space for yourself, your own personal prayer space. I couldn't help but go to Google search, and a lot of times when people are thinking of prayer space, they're thinking of a little place in their house or, a little corner somewhere. Well, that's okay to have a little place you can go off to be by yourself. Sometimes it's the bathroom. That's where you can go, where you close the door and you can be alone. Okay? To meditate properly, or to pray, or to meditate properly, which is the same as prayer, which I'll get to very shortly. But when I say prayer space, I mean within. Prayer space within. Okay? Now let's talk about that. Let me begin by reading something to you. It's a quote, very well. Maybe it's not so well known. The man is well known, Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl, a doctor. He was in the concentration camp in Nazi Germany. He's a Holocaust survivor. He survived the death camp, Nazi death camp. He wrote a famous book called Man's Search for Meaning. Anyway, here's the quote, because this quote is very, very germane, very important, appropriate for the topic of prayer space. And here's the quote. Between the stimulus and the response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Let me read it again. Between the stimulus and the response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Okay? Now, when I say prayer space, what I mean is actually to find that space that he's talking about there, between the stimulus and the response, where you stand back, mentally stand back, and you have the freedom to respond appropriately. If you bypass that little space, if you immediately react, immediately take umbrage, immediately become resentful, immediately get angry, immediately judge, how quick we are to judge, immediately get upset, let's put it that way, immediately become emotional, immediately react. When you immediately react, you bypass that space where it is your freedom, and then your freedom is gone. Then you become a conditioned animal to react, to get upset. See, just like animals react to their environment. Okay? How many of you have remember a time when you said something that you wished you hadn't said? Maybe after you said it, the moment you said it, you knew you shouldn't have said it. Or later, you saw. In that moment of anger, judgment, resentment, see, upset, to defend your pride, you said something that you can never take back. It'll never be forgotten. You wish you hadn't. See, you said that. Well, okay. So the other thing is a lot of people are compulsive. They don't have any freedom. See, the average person is not free. He thinks he's free, or she thinks she's free. He's not. Enslaved by obligations, enslaved by compulsions and drugs, thoughts, emotions, worries, responses. See? Enslaved by resentment. Okay? So the way not to become enslaved, see, and then enslaved by the reaction, the symptoms that then follow from our reactions. You get upset all the time, and eventually it's going to show up as what? Fatigue, high blood pressure, blood sugar, stomach aches, headaches, you name it. A whole laundry list of things that upset, resentment, anger, hostility, rage, suppressed anger contribute to it. Okay? So you need to find that space. Okay? Now there may have been times in your life when you did have that space, when all about you, people were upset about something, but somehow you remained calm. And it was beautiful. You remained calm, you did what was right. See, you found that space. Well, you need to find that space all the time so that you stop reacting like an animal, stop being enslaved, stop saying and doing the wrong thing, and instead stand back and then respond with patience, with kindness, with the right word, with just the right action. Okay? Just the right action. See, life is very subtle. There aren't enough books. See, it's nice to go and study, read this and that, and, you need to have a certain stock of vocabulary and so on. Okay? Just like me, for all the books that I write, and I've written so many books now. I've got a new book just came out, A Brief Introduction to Stress Management, Principles and Practice. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. You really should get it. It's on Amazon. But I've written many other books, so I need to have a basic vocabulary of psychology, physiology. I need that basic vocabulary to write those books. And I write about religious and spiritual things too, so I need a certain metaphysical vocabulary. I need to be able to use such words to communicate, okay? But after that, then the good things that come from me come fresh, okay? Not just regurgitating what somebody else said, okay? So, it's okay to study, to learn some things, okay, but if you look to outside authorities and to books and to experts, for the right answer in that delicate moment, it's not going to be there. Whatever you bring forth, whatever pre-planned thing you have, or pre-learned thing, or memorized thing that you have, it's going to ring false. The timing is going to be off. The other person will see that you don't have love. Okay? But if in that space between the stimulus and the response, you stand back, and then from your intuition, wordlessly, you just say the right thing. You just know what to say, somehow, intuitively, gut level. Well, that's moment by moment. It's actually moment by moment guidance from God. You didn't know that. He gives us intuition. He gives animals instinct. He gives humans intuition, which becomes conscience. It feels like conscience when you don't follow your intuition and do the wrong thing. So would you like to be close to your intuition? So you can realize the right move. And so you won't make the wrong move. And so you can be less stressed. And so you can be free. Would you like that? Okay, well, that's what my meditation helps with. Exactly what Viktor Frankl was talking about. Between the stimulus and the response, there is a space. Okay? In that space is our power to choose our response. Okay? That's where you're free. Now, a lot of you, so you need to get my meditation. Okay? Not just any meditation. Most meditations are more of the same. What we do is we mess up. We bypass that delicate moment when we would have been free to pause and then to do the right thing. We quickly bypass that, and we judge. We become angry, upset. We say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. And then, after the moment, then we see that we sense that we messed up. So what do? We hide. We escape into thinking, into thought, into imagination. Down there we relive the past, see, with regret, or trying to rearrange the past, or we plan for the future. Well, next time I'll say this, and when she says that, I'll say this. See, or we we worry, plan, scheme, or we escape into daydreams and fantasy to escape from seeing the truth about our failure in reality. See, just the way people use television or texting or drugs or marijuana or alcohol or sports, shopping or food, whatever they see, people can misuse anything. See, a human being is capable of misusing any natural thing in order to escape from, see, in order to preserve pride, save face, and not admit that they're wrong. See, but some people love the truth, and at some point, and they have love for other people, and they see that they're failing their husband, their wife, their child. They see it because of their resentment or their anger or their lack of understanding. They wonder how, in that moment, why couldn't I have just been sweet with my child? Why did I have to become hard and mean? Why? And the child is asking the same question. Why couldn't mommy have just understood? See, so then some of us compensate by going overboard to be permissive and too nice to cover up. Well, that's not good either. So you got to find the measure. Okay, you've got to find the perfect response, the right measure. There's not enough books in the world. That's what I began to say earlier and never finished. There aren't enough books in the world to tell you how to deal with that delicate moment with your son or your daughter or your partner. See, you need just-in-time guidance from your Creator. See, by way of intuition, His light, which you encounter in that space between the stimulus and the response. So here's what you need then. So I said earlier, not just any meditation, because most meditations are more of the same. See, we're in the habit of escaping into our thoughts, into our fantasy. Most people spend a huge amount of time lost in fantasy, daydreams, imagination, planning, scheming, worrying. Okay, so you don't want to do that. You want to do just the opposite. Instead of escaping into thinking or into fantasy, you want to stand back. Stand back from it. Okay? And when you stand back from it, when you take a mental step back from it, you have found that space that Viktor Frankl was talking about, between the stimulus and the response. You can live your whole life that way, from that space. Paul said to live and move and have your being in that space. Okay? The soul finds that space. So you're in the world but not of the world. It also says in the Bible to be in the world but not of the world. Okay? So you have a little distant feeling. Okay? You stand back. You're not so caught up in things. Not so caught up in your tricky imagination and your morbid thoughts and so on either. You're standing back. And there you have the power to respond appropriately. Have you ever had the feeling like somebody's looking at you, looking right through you? See, maybe you said something that wasn't quite appropriate. I'm just making something up, a joke that was a little not appropriate or something, and they just sat and they stared, and the person stared at you like they were looking right through you. Or maybe, well, you get the idea. You feel like exposed. Okay, it's uncomfortable. It's like they see right through you. It's like their soul. See, they actually probably in that moment, their soul is standing back, and they're observing you from that space. See? So they see the truth of the moment from that space. Little children are that way too. Sometimes little children look at adults with eyes of innocence and delight in the child, see? And the parent feels exposed, then they become angry. Parents become angry, which they shouldn't become angry. See, should honor and cherish the light in that little child, see? Or you need to find the light for yourself. Christ said, unless you become like a little child, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. So if you want to find the kingdom of heaven, then first you must find that space that Viktor Frankl was talking about. Between the stimulus and the response is a space. Okay, you have to find that. Then you have to live from that space. See, flow from that space. Yearn for that space. And you know what? That's where you're closer to God. And from that space you can then pray. See, and a lot of you mumble prayers now, or see, you're afraid to pray because you're afraid it's not reaching God, or see what I mean? It's not working out somehow. You need to pray from that space. You need to find that space. To pray from that space. Okay? So I can't emphasize enough the value of having the meditation. I have different ones. I have a beautiful 4-part meditation, which has a lot of good information. It's very, very beautiful. A little bit spiritual. Okay, very beautiful. And with it you get 2 ebooks, Becoming a Friend of God, and also my book, A Brief Introduction to Stress Management. You get both of those, and you get a little e-booklet to go with the meditations. You get the 4-part meditation and the ebooks, okay, for a small donation. You go to my website, talktoapastor.org, you'll see it. Or you can start with a free meditation, which I talk about all the time. The free easy meditation, I call it, or the free prayer meditation, I call it. Start with that. It's free. See if you can find that space, okay? And start to live and move and have your being from that space. My name is Roland.